Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 25th edition of the BS Podcast. This week I've brought a new guest. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Jeff Barbie.
How has the transformation been as you've become Jeff Barbie?
It's been something. So, for those that recognize the voice, and for those just out there who didn't know, originally my name was Sir Jeffers, which was great. I loved it, but it wasn't good for a whole lot much besides a fun name to say. So, since the transition, actually, I'm still working on the YouTube transition, but things have been going a lot better. Even without doing anything, I'm getting more hits on my videos and stuff like that, if you can believe it, with the few minor things I've done.
And that's the crazy thing about content creation, and it's one of the things I can love it, but at the same time I despise it. It's just a few small tweaks, and once you figure out what those tweaks are, then suddenly things are looking up.
Oh, entirely. It's definitely strange. So, when originally I was Sir Jeffers, if you typed that into anything, you would get sometimes my content, but normally you would get Bravest Warriors, which was never my intention, but I did end up watching the show and it was pretty good because there's a character in there called Sir Jeffers and it's a popular meme. So it was really hurting my searchability. But after sitting down and having a long conversation with our good friend Moriarty, it was pretty easy to see that, by switching over to this one little thing, and just to test it, I changed over a few little tags and one video for description, and that was it, and it changed, definitely, not instant, it wasn't like, 1,000 views, whatever. It was subtle, but you could definitely tell it was showing up in more and more people's suggestions.
And when it comes to SEO stuff, and a name's a very important thing, and when I seen you make the transformation, I was just like, I bet Moriarty would also think that the BS podcast is not good SEO. But the thing is, I have a multi-tier plan here.
Ooh.
For me, I know if you search BS podcast, I'm not first. I'm probably not in the top 5. I am in the top 5 on 2 things that I know of. But over time, that'll change. And then when you're searching something else that may have to do with another BS podcast kind of thing, you'll see mine. And that's just part of a interloping plan. I don't think it really hurts me right now. YouTube-wise, the podcast is not meant for YouTube. YouTube is for videos, not for an audio podcast. So my analytics on YouTube have represented that, and that's pretty okay with me,
Oh, yeah.
Because YouTube is the most infuriating thing ever, and especially when you're not creating something that is really meant for YouTube, it just doesn't really hurt my feelings at all.
I can understand that. I've been there.
So the first topic, I'm probably going to mess up the name of this company because if you look at it just visually, it looks like it's Psionics, but apparently it's Psionic or some bullshit. I don't know. By the way, profanity is allowed on the BS podcast. Just for the record. So the company that owns Rocket League has joined the Epic family. But right now, there's this controversy surrounding it on what's going to happen with Rocket League. Will it remain on the Steam platform, or is it going to be going to the Epic Game Store permanently? And at the time of the announcement, Epic sent out a press release that read that the PC version of Rocket League will come to the Epic Game Store in late 2019. In the meantime, it will continue to be available for purchase on Steam. Thereafter, it will continue to be supported on Steam for all existing purchases. However, they've clarified that even after it's released on the Epic Game Store, they're probably going to keep supporting it, but the big thing is Rocket League remains available for new purchases on Steam, and long-term plans will be announced in the future. So right now, it's going to remain on Steam as a short-term plan, because they don't have their long-term plan figured out. So the big controversy is whether or not Epic is going to continue to make these aggressions towards the Steam library by having Rocket League go strictly to the Epic Game Store since they now own Rocket League. What do you think they're going to do with this?
So, okay. So I'm gonna throw it out there right now that I love Steam. Okay. So I love Steam as a platform, and I've used Epic Games for my own stuff. A few games that you can only get there, and that's fine. I'm okay with there being a few other platforms to purchase games on. I understand and I get it. Um, However, I'm not crazy about Epic going after certain games like that. Like Rocket League is a huge game, and it's one of the top games played on Steam. Once that gets pulled, that's a pretty hefty hit to Steam right there. I mean, they'll still support it, and I get that. They kind of have to because it's been being sold for so long. They're not just gonna like, hey, if you have the game on Steam, let us know and we'll send you. No. They're gonna have to support it, and that's fine. That means there's some kind of collaboration there somewhere. So who knows where that might lead? Hopefully, good avenues. But as it stands right now, I'm not like their long term plan. I hope it's a good one because this is not gonna bode well for anybody, for Steam or them. Like the Steam fanboys are going to attack them, and it's going to look good on their sales for a little while, but it's not going to look good on like the Steam side of things because everybody's going to be super upset. So I don't know.
I feel like for me, I feel like Epic, they're not trying to compete with Steam. They're not trying to have the better game store for a consumer perspective. They're just trying to take games away from Steam to bring people to Epic. So they just want to take things Steam has, or take things that is already in the gaming world and put it on their platform, and then hope with their slightly modified pay system for the developers that more will go over to the Epic Game Store instead of Steam. And for me, it's just Epic isn't trying to be better for the consumers. They're just trying to weed out Steam.
And I could definitely see that. Now again, don't get me wrong. I have nothing negative truly to say about Epic Games because I've used the platform, and it's not a bad platform. Their store is kind of fun to browse through. But I've been with Steam so long, and I like how it's custom for me. I like having, the whole launcher. Here's my profile that I can customize. Here's my inventory of stuff that I get. I don't think Epic Games right now will be able to compete with Steam with all of the stuff you get. I don't think you will be able to go in and have your own. You'll have an Epic Games profile. I don't think you'll be able to go in and have an inventory and have a trade system and have collectibles and other stuff. So them taking the games is kind of the only thing they can do right now to really cause a dent in Steam that I can see. But in the future, if they start rolling out these big updates to try to pull more and more people away, I could honestly probably see some potential, issues in the future, maybe lawsuits even, because there's a lot of things they would have to take away from Steam to get any ground, and taking those things away specifically, again, the inventory and the trading, that would only breed like bad relations and again potential lawsuits for straight up copying.
And another thing that I don't know about the Epic Game Store is, will they have big sales like Steam has done?
So that is another good question. So Steam, we all know of the wallet crushing, just the destroyer of allowances, the Steam summer sale. Just to name one of the many sales. Like they have a spring sale, a summer sale. They have the Christmas sale, which is just as draining as the summer sale. And those are super. It's like 90% off. It could be a brand new game, 90% off. Epic Games, I've not seen any great big deals so far, but I have seen a couple for like 60% off and so on. But I've not seen any go as ridiculous as 90% or even 80%. So I don't think there's any competition there. I think as long as Steam keeps up with the amazing deals, we'll be okay. But if all Epic Games has to do is go, hey, we got 1 million of these keys that we're not selling anymore, let's go ahead and just sell them for dirt cheap. Make our money's worth.
Yeah, I feel like a very important thing if Epic wants to bring in the consumers is you gotta replicate the Steam sales. You can't, if you have one platform that's gonna give you a great deal multiple times a year, and you that's just gonna be like, oh, well, the game's like $30 year round, but maybe one time a year we'll make it like 30% off or whatever. That's not a real example, but assuming that would be an idea, I just don't think that's going to bring in the consumers compared to what Steam does. And that could be something Steam does, as you said, to help be like, yeah, I'm pretty confident the consumers will want to stay with us.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of games I have in my Steam library that I bought through Steam that I could have potentially found, elsewhere. So, you go to like Origin, for example, right? And at one time, and at one time, there were a few games on Origin that I believe were also on Steam. I'm trying to think of one. Hold on, my brain's frying. I could be very wrong, but let's just say, you find a game on Origin, you find a game on Steam. Origin has this game 30% off, and it's the first time the game's gone on sale. By then, chances are on Steam, the game's gone on sale several times, been free twice, given to you if you own another game, or you at least get a coupon in your inventory for 40 or more percent off a week after it drops. I mean, let's be honest here, Steam does that. I've got so many coupons from games that have just released for that exact reason.
Exactly. It's a great consumer way to go about it.
They're like, we got money here. Just everybody take a key. Just take it. I don't know, whatever. Just it's yours.
And you can have a key. And you can have a key. You can all have keys.
Gabe out here like Oprah.
Exactly. I think that. I think that's kind of the thing about the Epic versus Steam thing as it first has started. It's people initially wanted to go to Epic because they were more friendly with developers, but I feel like Steam at this point is still more friendly to consumers. And will there be middle ground there? Can you be better to developers but not be worse to consumers? Is there that middle ground?
So there should always be. I'm a very firm supporter in supporting the developers, whether it be like there are games I have on Steam that I've bought directly from the developers and like their games websites, and then they just give you a Steam code because I know that it's going directly to them. Steam's not taking a slight cut if they do take one, which I'm pretty sure they do, because that's just otherwise they wouldn't make any money. So I do believe that maybe there could be a slight increase in how well Steam treats the actual, like, maybe not even the big companies. Like, I'm pretty sure Activision doesn't need that extra $3, okay? But,
No.
You see indie developers, I would like to see those people that get greenlight, maybe they get, I would be happy if Steam said, hey, look, you just put out this game, it's just now hit the store, it was approved, people are liking it. We will give you 30 days where we will increase how much you make and how much we won't take away. And then after that, maybe I could see them starting to go back to normal. I think Steam should adjust slightly, but I also believe that they should keep up with their sales. Like, I think Epic is in a good way to creators right now, and that's great. They support them nicely, very nicely. I have to admit, it's a real nice boost to the creators. Great. I do believe, however, Epic could benefit from a few extra sales. But then again, if they did that, they would lose money.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a very shaky middle ground for sure.
So, moving from Epic versus Steam, are you a fan of Dying Light?
I've played very little actually, but I've seen a lot of videos, so I do like it.
I feel like Dying Light was super important to the next generation when it released. And it's interesting that we're beginning to hear rumors and know that Dying Light 2 is coming to E3 when we're getting closer and closer to what for the consoles is going to be the next generation. Are they going to replicate what they did last time and provide an amazing next gen experience right off the bat.
So this is another one of those things that I have a thing about. So Dying Light, great game. From the parkour to the fighting, it felt good. It rewarded you for exploring. Although you can try to replicate a game and make it better. People could say, hey, you should add this, it'll make your game better. And that'll work. But the moment they start trying really hard to make a game better and better and better, there's a good chance it's not, like you're gonna remember the first one, only for nostalgia, especially of it being better. They have a great formula. I think if they stick to it and add just a few things, it'll definitely be worthwhile. But at the same time, if they try to go too far, too above and beyond, there's definitely gonna be issue. Like it might not turn out as great. It'll look prettier, but more content doesn't exactly equal more fun, more enjoyable.
Very true. Do you think you will be playing Dying Light 2?
Oh, for sure. Are you kidding me? I don't care if it's a pile of crap. I'll play it. I give every game a chance at least.
I feel like a game that I wish people talked more about, because when it comes to games, like until I can stream, I'm not fully into games right now, because I want to stream games. I want to have my first experience be on stream. So I remove myself from any new game. And I was super hyped because I did play South Park The Stick of Truth. I've played that and completed it, and I was super excited for Fractured Butthole. But when it released, that was just kind of it. Nobody talked about it. Not really.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It had that hype. A lot of big streamers were, they were playing on it. They were, you would see Ray Narvaez. You would see obviously PewDiePie did it, and I think Jacksepticeye did it. It was popular for about a week, and then it was just gone off the face of the earth.
Are they gonna make a third South Park game?
Well, I think they both sold really well, so maybe I kind of hope so because they are pretty fun. They take a lot of risks, a lot of important risks that make the games fun and work and kind of edgy. But to do that a third time with the way the world is right now, maybe not.
See, I feel like as the world changes, and probably controversial, but as the world gets more sensitive to things, South Park has a bigger and bigger risk, because South Park has always wanted to poke at things and see what gets a reaction. They've always done this. And whether it's the TV show, the game, what have you, it's interesting. Like with the latest season of South Park, they did this hashtag cancel South Park movement as they went through with their normal season. And I thought that was funny because it's just like, okay, if they did anything that got super controversial, they already got that covered. Hashtag cancel South Park. But for me, I want them to continue to take these risks as long as it's profitable for them. I don't see why they would not want to take the risk and make a third South Park game. Especially, I really enjoy how similar the show and the game look. It's basically identical, and I think that's fantastic.
I agree. Now, and I totally understand what you mean. Now, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, right? The guys that basically did everything for South Park. Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they've always had this belief, and it's something that I tend to recite kind of often, is that either everything can be made fun of or nothing.
Yep.
I'm not saying that some of the things they jab at are right, not in any regards. Because there are some things that have been too far for me, and I'm like, whoa, okay, it's the shock values there, and I get it. Shock value is always, in. But I do agree with their right to make the jokes about it. They've always pushed the envelope, and they've even snuck in jokes and done things that for the TV show that have gone under the radar, and like they've gotten scolded and almost kicked off, like ejected from the network because of it. But it was their creative right and their belief that they wanted that in there. They wanted that joke to happen. So I'm hoping there's another game. I would love to see another game, and I hope it's just as edgy and, absolutely insane as the other ones. I just hope that when they do so, they do it right. They don't go after certain topics that should never be gone after, because there's always some things everybody believes there's something that might be good for someone else, but not for you. And that's fair. They got to be general with what they jab at, and that's for the sake of sales and for the sake of actually being allowed to sell it.
Absolutely. The mindset of you can either joke about everything or nothing, while that is fine, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong, there are things that you still probably shouldn't poke at. And I don't. Sometimes South Park approaches that line where you're not going to win anyone over if you joke about this.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of things, even if some people are not in favor of you joking about it, I think most things you can joke about on a TV show or a game. And I feel like for the most part, South Park goes with that line. And they try and find the very edge of the line.
It's one of those things. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for what they do and the stuff they come up with. I do. And the writers themselves, they don't write everything as far as I know. I can greatly respect it because, again, that's just the humor they have. I do believe that either everything can be joked about or nothing can. I'm not saying if something happens, the next day you joke about it. You got to give it time. But over time, if you can't find a reason to laugh, then what's the point, man? Like, you're always going to remember it as this glum thing when, if something bad happens, it should always be remembered as a bad thing. I get it. But if you're trying to bring light to a bad situation, to try to get a smile out of someone in the privacy of your own home, nonetheless, I mean, come on. If you're just having a good joke with someone and something like that comes up, okay. But if it comes down to it and you're like, hey, so blah, 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 and it's in a game or a video that millions of people or billions of people are seeing, okay, maybe there's some issue there. But again, I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like I said, with a little bit of time, everything can be a joke, in my opinion.
I agree. It's all about the right timing and context.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make any joke in the right context. So, there is one thing I dislike about South Park.
And what's that?
I absolutely despise 10 episodes for a season.
Yeah, I mean, so a long time ago when they were making it, it took a little more time because it was just bits of paper moving around and it was like stop motion. But how it is now, how it's actually drawn and a bunch of other stuff, you would think they could do it quicker, but I think they still do like the cell. I believe they still do all the cell work, which after working in an animation studio, I've seen and I know it takes a little while, but you would think they'd be able to go on a little longer. Make it 12 at least or something.
Yeah, when your episodes are like 20 minutes and you only have 10 episodes, you're giving us over the course of 2.5 months, if it goes without a week break, you're only giving us a little over 3 hours of content. And I just feel like that isn't a lot. Most TV shows, they can do a 10 episode thing, but they're an hour-long show. I don't think a 10 episode model works for a 30-minute show.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's their creative freedom to do these things they want to. I understand completely. It's fine. And sometimes it might not be them, it's the studio. And sometimes the studio is saying, hey, we don't have any more slots for you right now. Whatever. So it sucks, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, maybe they don't want to burn themselves out. Maybe they're trying to stretch out their ideas and make sure everything is refined and researched. Who knows?
Very fair, very fair. So I told you before the podcast started that we had to talk about this. So this week, a trailer was released, and it's absolutely a mindfuck. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay,
Ugh.
so
Oh my god.
I will throw it out there, okay? Call me crazy. I didn't think the trailer looked too bad. Now, I'm not saying I like Sonic's design, but I'll get into that in a minute. I do think that freaking god, Jim Carrey, he's gonna carry that movie. Jim is gonna carry that movie, okay? Let's make no mistake about it. The man is amazing. I've loved his acting and his work. His movies for except Dumb and Dumber, but I've loved his movies for years. Okay, I'm a huge fan of Jim Carrey. Watched him all my life, and I've seen his stand up and everything. So he's gonna do great things, but I owe that to my attachment to him. As for Sonic, he was troubled from the start. His first design wasn't great. They slightly reworked him, and that's what we have now. However, recently, I think it was 3 or 4 days ago from when this is being recorded, this is Friday. So, it's just to date the video or the podcast.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
So, it's weird, right? Because the who was it, Paramount Pictures and the Sega team were like, "Hey guys, look, we've heard you loud and clear. You're great. We thank you all for your input. We're gonna change Sonic." So they're actually reworking Sonic.
And I think that's a good move, because when I watched the trailer, honestly, my biggest problem is just it looks like they had the idea of Sonic and they made a human suit for Sonic. And I don't think that's the direction to go in.
Yeah, it definitely. Okay, so I like the design of like how they did the fur and everything. It's a high quality render, don't get me wrong. But yes, I like his legs a little too muscly for me. His hands a little too small. They definitely tried to like anthropomorphize him as like a human. Think of it like a xenomorph, if you know what was it, xenomorph? The old books, like growing up, they were like an actual. I think they were a kids book. Let me double check. Were they xenomorphs?
I have no idea, for the record.
I'm double checking. Let's see. Oh no. So the xenomorph was the alien from Alien. They were xenomorphs. Wow, I'm an idiot. No, there was a book series. One sec. They might have just been called like Animorphs. Anyway, so it looks kind of like a human was trying to become a hedgehog, right? And okay, yeah, it was called Animorph, not Xenomorph. God. So, and if you look at the old Animorph covers, it was like, hey, here's a boy slowly turning into a wolf on the very cover, and it looks good because they would be that animal. But it looks like with the Sonic movie, it's like the halfway mark in that transition it looks exactly where they parked him at like the halfway mark, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't look good.
But they did say they were going to work on it. And I feel like the thing is, I've seen people respond and say, how do you fix it with the time you have left? But the thing is, once you fix it, assuming, and keep in mind, I'm not sure if this is how it actually works, but in my head, once you redo the model, you can just put that model in where the previous model was and have all the other stuff you've already done, all the scenes you've already done, all that you've already spent time on. You can just use the new model for that.
So, yes and no. Now, mind you, I work in an animation studio, and I have also, in my spare time, dabbled in 3D animation. So, we're going to use that example in 2D animation, right? If you're working in, like, Flash, you can replace, they're called symbols in there, but, like, a t-shirt, say you got a blue one and it's supposed to be red. You can replace that symbol, and all of the animation will stay with it. It'll just now be a red shirt. Woo, you've done it. In 3D animation, it usually doesn't work like that. So if they were to try to shrink up the legs and they were to enlarge the hands, they've got to go in and add a different bone structure with like a bone tool. They've got to go in and the animation needs to be adjusted dramatically because they've got to re-render all of the hair, all of the movements. Maybe not all of them because some of the models will still work, but they're going to have to redo at least the legs. And if they adjust the hands or like the head size, all of that needs to be readjusted down to the bone. So it's a bit of work, I've got to say. Like, I've been there, I've done it. It's a lot of work. The animation itself can usually stay, but you're going to have to replace a few of the frames. And when there's, 60 frames or more in a second, and the movie is hour and a half long, I don't know if it's going to be that long, I'm just estimating. That's a lot of time, okay? You got to work on every single frame individually as well.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And again, I am very happy with them changing the design. People are actually making fan art thanking them, like, hey, thank you so much for doing this. But Paramount Pictures, you guys need to know that these are people, and that if you need to delay the movie, we're okay with that. Just don't
Crunch
work
time,
them
boys.
to death. Yeah, no, don't. Oh, there was a whole Teen Titans Go thing about that. Anyway, I won't get into that. And it's funny too. In all this time, right? There's these Sonic models that they have currently. They're dated. They're years old, mind you, that you can find. And then you see people that get a hold of these current models from movie stills, and they're editing them, and they still look the same as in the movie. They just look way better. They're hilarious for me to see. It's like, why didn't you just do that?
Would have been cheaper.
Yeah. It's like, hey, before we start going with this design, let's put it out on the internet and see what people think. Okay, people hate this? Okay, maybe we should change it, or we'll use one of their designs and we'll go with that. No, you want to keep... Okay, well, okay. And then they don't care. They just want to keep going about it. But who knows? There was most likely a gray area. There was a reason they couldn't right away. Probably for money, because they start this ages in advance with 3D animation. So who knows? But I hope it turns out well. Like I said, I want to see it, and I want to enjoy the movie. I want to enjoy Jim Carrey as Eggman. I want to enjoy Sonic being on the big screen, and I want to hope that it does good enough for there to be a sequel. But as it's looking right now, oh boy.
All I know with the Sonic movie, 1, I want to watch it just so I have an actual opinion on it, and 2, I want the Golden Bolt to stream himself watching the movie.
Give us that spicy review.
Yeah, I want a live reaction as he cries as he watches Sonic.
Yeah, oh my god. Okay, so I love Bolt. It's no... Oh, for those of you, if this is probably your first time to the podcast, Bolt is what we call him for short, but his full thing is the Golden Bolt. Really great guy, great content. Shameless plug. Anyway,
all the shameless plugs.
All the shame. No shame. Sorry, Wes, if that's not allowed, but anyway.
Go ahead.
But, he loves Sonic. He does. From the good to the bad, he's all about it, right? Let's be honest here. He's stuck with it for this long. He's seen the good, and well, we've all seen the live streams. He's definitely gone through the bad. Okay. Ooh. And so, you know what? I think he'll, on the inside, enjoy it until he actually sees Sonic, and then it's going to be like a bad fan fiction. He'll enjoy it, but he will die a little inside.
But it's those bad fan fictions that last in your head.
Oh yeah,
forever.
Oh, for sure. There's still a couple. I mean, I've read some fan fiction. Not exactly Sonic related. Don't mind me. But I've heard it from watching other people. I mean, we've seen the Going Ogre board streams, and I've watched a lot of Sonic playthroughs of like Sonic Adventure, and they're reading bad fanfiction throughout it, and it hurts, but I enjoy it because it's cringy and funny, and it's Sonic. But it kills me inside because it's cringy and Sonic, and no.
It's so bad. It's bad. It's very bad, but it's good.
Exactly.
You walk into it, and you're scored afterwards, but a little part of you enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. There's always going to be a little bit that you enjoy. I mean, there's going to be something. Like I said, I love me some Jim Carrey. I'll watch it just for him alone. Okay? I mean, I'll do it. I'll watch just about any movie out there if he's in it. Again, I didn't like Dumb and Dumber, but I watched it. And it's not my kind of movie, but I liked Jim Carrey. I watched it.
And that's the loyalty that Jim Carrey will always appreciate.
Yeah, I hope one day he finds this and he goes, all right, this Jeff guy, this Jeff Barbie guy, he's a good guy. I like him.
Jim
So
Carrey and Jeff Barbie starring in...
oh god. Oh god, let's see if we were in something. I don't know. I was gonna say something stupid because to go with Barbie, like Jim's Playhouse, but that sounds a little weird.
That's the fanfiction movie.
No! Coming this summer, Jeff Barbie and Jim Carrey in a new hot fanfiction. Jim's
Directed by
M. Night
Michael
Shyamalan.
Bay.
No, M. Night Shyamalan.
Both.
Sure, both directed by both. With like Joss Whedon as like a consultant.
Yes. That would be absolutely crazy.
It'd be like a racing scene for no reason. The car would explode.
Yes.
Oh my god. We're getting off topic. Oh god. Anyway, so what, like, do you have any final thoughts about the Sonic movie? I'm asking you the question.
I feel like when it comes to Sonic, I guess the context is I've never played and beaten any of the Sonic's games. They're not my kind of game. But if you put it in a movie and you have Sonic, which apparently can go 700 miles per hour, apparently we learned that in the trailer. 700. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I wish I could go that fast. But it'll be interesting to see if it translates well to a movie, because as a lot of people will say, putting a game into a movie doesn't generally go well.
Usually not. And now for some movies, so I liked the Doom movie. I know not a lot of people did. I thought it was good. It wasn't great. It had good moments, and I liked it. I liked The Rock. The Rock was so the Doom movie adaptation, actually I think there was 2 adaptations of it. I liked. I don't know which came first. I'm pretty sure the Resident Evil games came first, but I like the movies. So, you know, I think that you can do it good, but you can also really screw things up, especially if they go with like so the Sonic movie, it's looking pretty decent comparative to the actual story of Sonic, like Eggman working for the government. He has, before he became like a notorious supervillain asshat. But he did do things for the government, and that is kind of where the movie is putting him, as like he's just starting out doing these things. So I think if even the Avengers have done it, you know, they've changed a little bit with the lore, just a little bit, not a ton. So I think if they're changing little things, I'd say go for it. But if they're changing everything and then it's suddenly like freaking stupid, no, I'm not gonna enjoy it. I enjoy it when the show follows the game.
And as you said, it's beginning Eggman at an early point in Sonic's history, so they're already planning if this movie goes well, they're gonna do a sequel.
Which would be cool, except I believe, because they show a quick clip of Jim Carrey later on in that movie, and he's bald and he's got, he's bald and he actually has the bigger mustache. I think they are planning a time jump, but there's always going to be room for improvement. What I'm not crazy for, I don't know if you've seen, Sonic is using his rings as portals.
I seen that.
It's like, hey guys, there's this really cool movie out, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called Doctor Strange. Okay, what if we did that for Sonic to make up for his lack of rings?
Doctor Strange was a good movie.
I've yet to see it.
Oh my. Well, this next topic then, because I think we've pretty much wrapped up Sonic, and you kind of brushed over it accidentally earlier. And this is no spoilers, by the way. We're not talking about the movie itself. No spoilers at all. Avengers Endgame. I'm super, super interested in how it does in the box office. I follow it daily because I personally want it to be the new #1. I want it to beat Avatar because I want... if any movie is gonna do it, it's this one. And so far, it broke the domestic and worldwide opening weekend records, which was set by Avengers Infinity War. And as of this recording, as you said earlier on Friday, Avengers Endgame, after 1 week, is already the fifth ranked movie all time in the box office worldwide. Right now, it has $1.785 billion. In order to be the most profitable movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it only needs a little under 300 million more. That would put it in fourth place. Knowing that the number one movie, Avatar, is at 2.788 billion, do you think Avengers Endgame can pass it?
I think it definitely has a shot. Because Avengers, it's what has been being built up for, especially Endgame. It has been being built up for years since Iron Man 1 came out, and I was just a wee lad. It's been on my mind, like, oh, the Avengers, yes, yes. And then it hit, and my dad and I went and seen it, and we loved it. We've loved just about all the movies. So I think it has that potential because it's got such a worldwide following. The only thing that is currently going to keep it locked down if it doesn't pass is the reason why people liked Avatar. So Avatar, it didn't do compared. The public was like, this movie isn't great. But
that's why I want it passed, because nobody will say it's a great movie. People will say it's fine and that it was good, but that's a correction.
Yeah,
few people will say it's great.
I thought it was pretty great myself. But for different reasons. So, for starters, I loved the animation work. I'm a sucker for good animation. I love the writing of it, and James Cameron, okay, he does good work sometimes. Not all of his stuff. I'm happy to admit, but I like his stuff. What was James Cameron's? James Cameron's Avatar? Yeah, that was James.
Yeah.
So for some reason, I was hoping I wasn't saying something stupid there. My bad. Anyway, but it had everything I liked. It had, it had futurism. It had, they had to travel to this other planet and gather resources because ours was dying. I love that kind of idea. I love transhumanism, or being able to modify yourself or entirely sculpt yourself into another being almost. I think it's great. I loved the action. I loved, again, the story. I loved the conflict that occurred in the movie. It had a lot of itches, it scratched a lot of itches that we as viewers had, that I would like to think. And that's why, although a lot of people loved it, it did well. And it's also a really good movie to bore you enough that it's good to take a nap to.
Absolutely. And I feel like, for me, I have been super invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Since I've seen the first Iron Man movie, I've watched all the movies multiple times. And I feel like, as a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I want this to hit number one so I can say that I like a movie that's in the top three, because right now it's Avatar, Titanic, and a Star Wars movie. And I know a lot of people like Star Wars movies, so I guess I won't get into that again. Just not my cup of tea. But
yeah.
I want something in the top three, and I want something at number one that I really think would be a great movie. And I feel like Endgame is that movie. So I'm rooting for it to hit number one. I'm going to keep looking at it every day. I think this weekend is going to be huge for it. Hopefully, when this podcast releases on Monday night, hopefully this weekend has put it in the number two spot. I think there's a good chance it will be in the number two spot by then. At the very least, it'll be the most profitable Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
I think so too, and rightfully so. It was a fantastic movie, let's be honest here. I loved it. I thought it was great, and obviously no spoilers about it. I'm not here to talk about that much to it, but it had enough in there to make me laugh. I remember I stood up I was in the audience. So my movie experience there was the credits roll, and it's no spoiler, it's already been announced. There is no, in the credits, there is no extra little clip that are in the other Marvel movies.
Yep.
There isn't, and that's no secret. That's been announced, for ages now. If you've not heard it, sorry. But I didn't know that when I went and seen the movie. So, I'm here with this audience. We're all laughing. Some of us are kind of like, not crying, but we're kind of sobbing. It's the end of everything. It's the end game. And the credits start to roll, and I'm there with my dad, and he looks over at me, and I kind of like cut my hands together, and I go, "You might want to wait. It's a Marvel movie." And so everybody like had a good laugh in the theater, and it was good. We all knew why we were there. If you end up getting a chance to go see it in theaters, you can't beat that experience. And hopefully you've got a bunch of people to see it with you. It was amazing. Love it, and I hope it does become number one. I would love to see it number.
And I have another compelling reason why you should go see it in the theaters. If Endgame becomes the number one movie of all time, worldwide, you want to say you went to it in the theater. You want to say you were a part of that. You want to be a part of something great. Yeah, you were there.
Oh, man. And I completely agree.
So yeah, that's where I'm at with Endgame. I'm watching it every day, and I'm like, come on, you gotta get to that number 4 spot. Yeah, you gotta get to number 3. Yeah, you gotta get to number 2. Yeah. And the thing is, while I think it'll get to number 2 after this weekend, once this is posted, I think it'll be at number 2. The thing is, there's a big gap between number 2 and number 1. If I recall correctly, number 2 is at 2.1 billion. And as I said earlier, Avatar is at 2.788 billion. That's a big gap.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And it'll be interesting to see if after 10 years, because Avatar has held that number 1 spot for a decade now. It's been a decade in like a few weeks, maybe a month. But it's just got the decade mark. It'll be interesting to see if after a decade we now have something that can beat it.
Now, the only thing that I think, if this doesn't beat it, I know what is probably going to beat it, and it's going to be the next part of the Avatar movie.
Oh?
They're planning like 2 more movies, I think. I know there's one that's been in development for years now, like where they've been working on it. They gotta be. I gotta find that article. I know people are saying that they've started. And I hope it comes out. Again, I liked the first Avatar. I'd like a second one. I think if Avengers Endgame doesn't beat it, then it's either going to, A, do really well for this other Avatar movie, or it's going to flop and be direct to DVD.
That would be the most... That would be so fascinating if the first movie did number 1 in the box office and the sequel was direct to DVD. That would be the most... That's just such a big jump, if that was to be a case. Even if the third movie went direct to DVD, that's just such a big leap from number 1 for a decade.
I would just... I imagine, Wes, in a world, right, in a world that you wouldn't want to exist. You've got the top 5 movies in the box office, right? The top 5 movies in the box office are going to be the first like 3 Avatar movies, and then Endgame's going to be at number 4. And Endgame always looks like it's going to get really close to hitting that 3rd mark, but it never does.
I would cry. I would be so upset if Endgame got the number 1 spot and then they released Avatar 2 next year and it beat it. I would be so defeated.
Yeah.
So
no,
going... What were you gonna say?
No, that was what I was gonna say. Yeah, no, I'm
From Marvel's Endgame, there's something else Marvel is doing, which goes on to something I've talked about throughout the whole podcast history, throughout the first 25 episodes. I've covered Disney Plus thoroughly, and Disney's Hulu situation. I've discussed this to all ends. So, the next progression in this is Marvel is going to release 2 new Hulu shows. The first being Ghost Rider, who was brought to life by Nicolas Cage, and more recently, Gabriel Luna on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I thought his portrayal of Ghost Rider was good. I did enjoy that. And while neither were done much justice by the filmmakers around them, Luna is getting a second chance as Hulu will be giving the character his own show. Hulu, which is owned by Fox and by proxy also Disney, has expanded its partnership with Marvel Television with two new live-action series, Marvel's Ghost Rider and Marvel's Hellstorm. And I don't know much about the second one, but Marvel's Ghost Rider, also known as Robbie Reyes, is a quintessential anti-hero consumed by hellfire and supernaturally bound to a demon. Reyes lives on the Texas-Mexico border, and when he unleashes the Rider, Robbie brings vengeance for the innocents he encounters, but struggles to control the power he wields. I look forward to Marvel's Ghost Rider on Hulu.
I do too. I like Ghost Rider. He's always been kind of one of those like heroes, or not really anti-hero, but kinda. Um, he's always bounced on and off, hasn't he? Wasn't he like anti-hero, but is also, I don't know. Anyway, I do like Ghost Rider. I've always thought it was neat. I like the motorcycle. I like the backstory, and I loved the movie. I like Ghost Rider. I like Nicolas Cage as an actor. He's cool. He's really cool.
Yep.
I like him a lot. However, I believe that a Netflix or Hulu show would be fine, and that's great. I just hope they do it right. I would personally rather see it animated if it's going to be animated. Maybe still have Nicolas Cage voice the character. Maybe just animate Nicolas Cage, because I feel like they do better as a show when they're animated. I know there's like on Netflix you can watch Doctor Strange animated, and I loved that one. But I think if they tried to do the same thing as like a live action, it always feels like it's more of a, I don't know, like a bad sitcom in a way, or like one of those detective shows that are all over the place and super cliche.
The thing for me when it comes to animated versus actual people is, or I guess live action is the term, I guess that's been a big term this year, is live action, which I guess has been around for a while, but live action. I prefer live action stuff just because I can't get as emotionally invested in an animated thing, and I've had a previous guest debate this with me, and while his points are fine, and I'm sure that people can get super emotionally engaged into an animated show, and I'm sure I could. It's just I more easily get engaged emotionally in a live action show.
Yeah, it's, there are like live action. So okay, a good example, something like The Walking Dead. Now, I don't keep up with the show anymore, but I was super invested in it way back when. And whenever a character died, I was like, oh no, no. Like, I was super into it. But there
I
are also,
cry multiple times this season on The Walking Dead.
see, I haven't seen anything for this season or most of the last. I'm behind. But then there's also been animated shows that have gone on so long. Let's say an example is Ruby, which I love the show Ruby from Rooster Teeth. I think it's fantastic. Amazing show. And the new one, Genlock, that I'm super invested in. And when a character dies, if a character dies, I'm like, no, why no? But I think it just depends on how well it's. You can get invested in a show easily if it's written well, whether it's animated or not. It could be a flip book style animation. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I feel like it boils down to different things for different people work. And like I will, if they did an animated show, like they're gonna do animated stuff on Disney Plus for Marvel. They're gonna do a Marvel's What If, where it's like, oh, what if instead of Captain America or what's his name, Steve Rogers got the serum, it was Agent Carter who got the serum. I think that would be interesting to watch and see how that went down.
Yeah, like the alternate universe kind of style things. That'd be
Yep.
pretty cool. I'd like to see it. I think it'd be really cool. The little things like that. I think I would love to see shows like that. Like if Coulson, like Agent Coulson, I would love to see if
Yep.
Coulson had like a secret superpower of some kind, but make it known, like, before the show starts, like, hey, these are only our thoughts if he had this power, or if he were like this. None of this is real. Shut up.
What
Like,
if Agent Coulson was actually the Incredible Hulk?
yeah, exactly, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah, you can do stuff like that, and I feel that's where I would really prefer to see something animated. That way it's just easier to do, and it's just like, okay, you don't have to bring... And especially with animated stuff, I think it's easier to... If you have to replace someone, I think it's easier to have that transition when it's animated compared to live action.
Yes. As long as, like, if you're gonna replace a character, but you want them to also be the same, like, here's this Loki, and then, like, in the comics, Loki died in the comics, um, at one time, but he came back, but he was, like, entirely different. That was fine. He was still Loki. He was still deceitful and everything, but he looked different, and everything else about him was pretty much different. I think if they did that, it's one thing, but I think if a character is to, like, die and they find a way to bring them back, it makes sense to do so. Just don't change the voice actor.
Yeah.
That bug, like, if you get a sound alike, okay, but really get a sound alike. Don't be like, this guy kind of sounds like him. No one will notice, because believe me, we notice.
So, when it comes to Netflix news, this week they announced that when you watch Netflix, beginning days ago at this point, but if you're listening to this right now, you may have noticed everything should sound better. They have a new high-quality audio, which they're calling a feature. I don't really think high-quality audio should be what you call a feature. That should just be how it is. But it takes their sound quality to the next level. It's just supposed to sound closer to what the creators hear in the studio, so every little detail is captured for a richer, more intense experience. Additionally, if you have bandwidth or device limitations, they've made the quote-unquote feature adaptive so that they will be able to deliver the best possible audio to match your capabilities, similar to what they do with video. I think calling it a feature is kinda stretching it. That should just be how it is. But
Yeah.
it's good to do it. It's good to raise your sound standards.
And that's true. And I understand why they called it a feature. I do, because it is. It's like, hey, this is a feature because you won't find this on any other platform. I think that's what they mean by it. But the way it sounds in general is like, yeah, this is like something you specifically pay for, like you pay us for. So, you know, it's a feature in that. I think there's a way they could have worded it to sound not as cocky.
Huh. Yeah. But I feel like what it boils down to is Netflix will be that little bit better now. And I think that's pretty important.
I agree.
Every little bit that you can improve your product is good. And so going from the Netflix news, how do you feel about the Fantastic Beasts series?
Okay, so this is another one of those things. Damn you, Wes. I like the Harry Potter series. I've always been a fan.
Harry Potter is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And then, obviously, the Fantastic Beasts, same universe. Just a different time. And you know what? I have not seen the Fantastic Beasts movies fully. I've seen a good bit of the first one and a little bit of the second one. And I'm excited to see more, and I'm excited to go back and actually watch them. I want to see them. So if there's more in the works, then hey, you know what? That's amazing, and I can't wait to see it.
Well, then you'll be happy to know that Fantastic Beasts 3 has a release date of November 12th, 2021.
God, I really gotta catch up then.
Yeah, you have a couple years. You know.
Yeah, it's like, what, 2 years? It's not enough time. I gotta...
Yeah, I mean, how are you gonna find 5 hours max out of your 2 years to watch 2 movies?
Right. I mean, I'm a busy person. I mean, I got so many games to play and recordings to do and...
So many other movies to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on. I've got a 100% no death, no hit speedrun Cuphead. I gotta beat that under 2 minutes. I don't know where I'm ever gonna find it.
Next, you're gonna bring up Undertale.
Oh, well, I used to do that. Let's not go back and the company I work for, I hear that word enough on a daily basis. Oh.
Agreed. So, we'll just completely transition away from that. I think you're gonna watch Fantastic Beasts 3 maybe in the next 5 years. I haven't watched Fantastic Beasts 2 yet, but I have it on Blu-ray, so I'll watch it soon. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'll definitely watch Fantastic Beasts 3 regardless of how good or bad Fantastic Beasts 2 was, just because I want to see how it goes.
Yeah.
As Harry Potter loyalty, I guess you could say.
And I agree. You know what? I think what keeps me loyal to this series more than anything, and this is the last thing I'll bring up about the franchise itself, is that, oh my god, it's J.K. Rowling, right? Yeah, God, I can't. Her name? That was J.K. Rowling. Right?
Yep.
There we go. I was making sure it wasn't like J.K. Crowling. I always say her last name wrong for an unknown reason. I can't remember Rowling. I know it or I say like Rowling or something stupid. I'm just making sure. So great work. Obviously, love it. Biggest thing that keeps me glued to the series is that I follow her on Twitter. And the thing she tweets out, like, oh, this character was actually this, ha ha ha. Just like, she'll answer the most crazy fan theories, is like, yes or no. And there are some things she's come up with that are ridiculous. You could be like, in the books, Hermione was never described as a human. Is she a human? She could be like, no, she was a duck. Not that she would, I'm just saying, like, it's never just, and this joke, I'm pretty sure Hermione has plenty of times been described, obviously. I'm just saying, like, Neville was actually a toad, or whatever. Like, did you know that Neville, specifically, I think it was only something she tweeted about, Neville is actually, like, wizard royalty?
I did not know that, but I feel like if that's the case, then he was portrayed excellently in the movies, because I didn't get that vibe at all.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Neville Longbottom is, like, royalty of some kind in the Harry Potter universe. I could be completely wrong. I'm pretty sure that was from her, though, and if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. I'm not trying to tilt anybody. There's going to be some guy out there who... It's going to be wrong, and there's going to be that one person out there who's like, this guy's awful. He has no idea what he's talking about, nom, 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 as he eats a bag of Cheetos. But, you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I apologize. So, yeah.
Well... Beyond Meat, the plant-based meat company, is going public next week, or I guess this week, as the episode's released. The company sells burgers that contain no meat, but they supposedly taste like they do. Its stated goal is to fix our food system. Its initial public offering, IPO, is the latest sign that alt meat is going mainstream, and they think it's a big deal. Beyond Meat was the first company to really set its sights on creating meat from plants that could compete on the basis on the things that meat eaters like about meat. And the policy and investments around meat alternatives, they're like, before Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, there's really this sense that plant-based food was for vegetarians. People like Ethan Brown said, no, we can make plant-based food that meat eaters like just as much. I want to know your thoughts on this. How do you feel about meat-based meat?
Okay, so this is weird, right? Throughout the years, we've always had, like, a type of process for people that can't eat meat or don't like to eat meat. We've had tofu, we've had the even this, like, grass burgers and stuff like that. We've always had something, but it's never tasted good. The fact that they're trying to do that and make it taste good, make it taste like meat, I'd say go for it. And will it be better for food? Considering we can grow crops faster than animals can be matured, I think yes. But at the same time, there's two other factors that apply here. One, the cattle industry specifically, unless you're buying American directly, which oftentimes we're not, we're not subsidizing that industry. So it's going to go down and going to go under, and things are going to get worse in the future if it's not, like, properly maintained. And if this happens, I'm not saying it's going to be a negative. If anything, it might help. Hey, if this is what this tastes like, maybe I was wrong about meat. Let me go try this. Or I think it's good for an alternative. I want to see it go forward, and I want to try a burger. A burger made entirely out of, greens and other stuff. I think, hey, you know what? Sure, go for it. One sec.
I support the alt meat that doesn't kill the cow to get the burger. I support this plant-based idea. Just save the cows.
Well, you've also got best to think out. So, okay, so here is my thought behind it, right? And again, that is your own belief, and I appreciate that. I'm not gonna say, I don't dislike vegetarians. I like vegetarians. I like, vegans, whatever. I myself, I am a meat eater. I have gone out and I have hunted to provide. I have hunted a deer. I've squirrel. I have helped raise a chicken from a chick, and then proceeded to eat it a couple months later.
Killing chickens is okay. They'll peck your eyes out if you're not careful.
But I've done it with horses as well, and I've done it with a cow as well, and pigs and everything else. There's I know, it's awful. I know, Wes, I'm sorry. But at the same time, I think if you're doing it pointlessly and you're being wasteful, that's awful. But I think, so like what we did, every part of it went to use, and every part of it was fine. So it's I did it to provide. It's very hit and miss. But, again, it's just what I believe in. I like my meat, and I like it as fresh as it can be. So there. Now, where's Bess? I've got some cooking to do.
Excuse you, I do not appreciate such words, and just for that, if you're listening to the podcast right now, you won't notice this unless you show up on my server, which is, of course, there'll be links everywhere, but Jeff should notice that he just got a new role.
Oh, did I? Oh, I gotta see this. Hold on. Calculator, yay!
With a big angry face about it. Shame.
There we go. I've renamed myself to Bess Hunter.
Oh man, that's terrible.
No, but in all seriousness, yeah, I want to see this go far, and I want to see it help with the world. But there's also part 2 to everything with food. It's that it doesn't matter how much food we're going to produce when we don't have enough resources naturally on Earth to actually continue going on. Like, we've got maybe, 15 years is what scientists are saying before things become irreversibly bad? So maybe this could help that. Maybe it can make life better for the world, and I hope it does, but we're still in a very dangerous way right now. Like, I'm genuinely scared about the future coming up with what we're leaving behind for the next generation. But if this is like a step forward, then I say I welcome it.
Exactly. It's all about what is gonna have us survive the longest, and ideally keep the planet alive. But I feel like part of people's goal is to just drain everything we can out of Earth and then move to a new planet. But that plan, while I guess that's an stupid idea, there's no alternate planet to go to right now. So you should be more careful with what we have right now.
Well, and I agree with that. Now, there is also a thing, too. There are actually planets we can go to. And there's been a couple that have been identified. At least I believe so, if what I've kept up true. There are planets with life on it, just no living beings. There's trees, there's oxygen, and other stuff, supposedly. Alpha Centauri marks one of the many places we could go. I know it's not a planet, I'm pretty sure. System. Anyway, there's also like a specific planet that isn't named. That's just a bunch of letters and numbers right now. Shame on Jeff, the best hunter. Wes is typing in chat. It's one of those things too. We as humans have this incredible power that when we're pushed to the brink, like we're on the edge of, our lives, or a very extinction event, we will always find a way to grow, to learn, to fix things. And it's been shown in times of war, in times of great conflict, you see humans becoming better to avoid being wiped out. It's one of our strongest traits as human beings. So maybe it's going to take us destroying this world for us to truly unlock what it means to get off this rock and escape somewhere else and not drain its resources and be better than we are before.
Absolutely, and I think that's what the next two topics I have actually kind of cover. And first, I guess I'll just go ahead and lump both of these together since it kind of fits into this topic. In the state of Maine, food containers made of styrofoam, also known as polystyrene, will be officially banned from businesses. The law will go into effect January 1st, 2021, prohibits restaurants, caterers, coffee shops, and grocery stores from using the to-go foam containers because they cannot be recycled in Maine. Maine has become the first state to take such a step, as debate about banning plastic bags or other disposable products is spreading across the nation. Those who'd violate the law, and this part I find kind of funny, could face a fine of up to $100. What a small fine. But the reason why styrofoam is difficult to clean up is that it easily breaks into smaller pieces. And foam also absorbs toxins faster than other plastics and is mistaken for food by marine life. And the toxin that wildlife consumes makes its way up the food chain into people. So, that's one of the other topics that kind of goes over this whole discussion on helping long-term Earth. And I support banning styrofoam for one reason, and I wish all states would do it. And this is a very selfish reason, but I would appreciate it very much. I find touching or hearing styrofoam to be the worst thing ever. Okay. There is nothing worse.
So I know exactly where you're coming from. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the feel of styrofoam, like, kind of breaking in my hand is one thing. But the sound it makes, it's like a squeaky, but not a squeak kind of, I can, like, hear it. I don't like it. I like the feel of it breaking, personally. And, you know, I've seen some fun even come out of it. I think it has a place in the world, but in our environment and definitely being used as like a way to carry food and liquids and other stuff, I can definitely no. I think there are better ways. Also, I'm hiccuping like a fiend. Oh my god.
Well, while you deal with your hiccups, I'll discuss the other topic that still wraps around this, which takes a new direction. Well, kind of new. The Washington state legislature recently passed a bill that, if signed by the governor, allows human bodies to be composted and used for mulch. As the nation ages, U.S. funeral practices are changing. Rates of cremation surpassed 50% in 2016, overtaking burials as the most popular choice. The Census Bureau, in a 2017 report, predicted a death boom. 1 million more Americans are projected to die in 2037 than they did in 2015. Human composting, its supporters say, is an eco-friendly option that can meet this growing demand. A Seattle-based company called Recompost plans to offer a service called Natural Organic Reduction, which has 2 patents pending, that uses microbes to transform the departed skin, bones, and all. The company's service, which would include a funeral ceremony, will cost about $5,500, she said, which is more than the average cremation, but less than burial in a casket. Microbes go to work within a large vessel, about 8 feet tall and 4 foot wide, that fits a single body along with alfalfa, straw, and wood chips. Over the course of 30 days, as temperatures in the vessel rise to 150 degrees, decomposition destroys the body, along with most pathogens and pharmaceuticals. Pacemakers would be removed beforehand, artificial joints or other implants sifted out afterwards. They're making a cubic yard of soil per person. Families would be allowed to take the compost home, or, because it's a lot of soil, donate it to conservation groups in certain regions. Restrictions on where the soil could be applied would mirror rules for scattering ashes, broadly speaking, only on land with an owner's permission. What is your thought on human composting?
Okay, so I have actually had this discussion with my father about people. um, I would like to point out that I also believe that we are born from the earth, and when we die, we return to the earth. It's if caskets. I find graves, honestly, like if you feel that a burial and you want to have a grave, that's in your right. I'm not going to say anything about that. I believe personally, though, kind of selfish, that like, hey, I'm in this part of the land now, ha ha ha. When in reality, the moment you're put into a casket and that gets buried over the course of a few days, maybe a few weeks, if it's a good casket that are overly expensive anyway for a hunk of wood, they almost always blow out at the seams, and then you're just rotting. Like you've seen movies where they dig up the casket, and the ones you can tell which movies are right and wrong because the ones where they dig up a casket that's 5 years old and it looks brand new, that's wrong. The ones where they dig it up and it's all decomposed and nasty looking, that's true. There's a reason, like, you're already dead. You don't need this comfort. Instead, like, I'm an organ donor. When I die, take my organs, take my body, cremate me, take some of my ashes, give it to my family. Take the rest of my ashes, and if it helps, or take part of my body in this case, like if they want to cremate my hand, give part to my father, my sister, and whoever, okay. But the rest of my body, decompose it, throw it in a ditch for, I don't care, man. As long as it's like good for the environment and it helps, do it. Like, I don't need my body anymore. I'm dead. What do I care?
Exactly.
Shit, put it in my garden. Like, just bury me. Just make sure people know, hey, there's a dead body back there. But don't worry, it's here's the paperwork.
Don't worry, it'll only haunt you for a few days.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, human composting, on the outside looking in, it looks a bit crazy. But when you think about, okay, so let's say that's 3 options: cremation, burial, or decomposting. I feel like, and the article actually discussed that cremation puts a lot of toxins into the air, the process,
and
it burns fuels that aren't good for the environment. And that's why this composting is the idea now, because in theory, and I don't know if it's going to hold true, it's going to be more eco-friendly. And I'd say, yeah, if that's the best direction for, as we tie these topics together for the betterment of the Earth lasting longer, I'm okay with the concept. It'll be interesting to see how Washington goes with this idea.
And I am too. Like I said, if it's better for the world we live in to help prolong, our survival and make things better, maybe the crops will grow better. Maybe it'll be good just to get. It's mulch. We've used worse things as mulch before. Just do it. Look, I'm dead. I don't care. Use my body. Do what you want. Get some use out of it. Because I'm clearly not using it anymore. Clearly, why should I care?
But not too much use.
Bess, Wes, you probably like ground me up and feed me to Bess or something. No witnesses.
Maybe. There'd be no evidence then. So, it is that time of the week, Jeff. Are you ready?
Sure.
Jeff, you are now the judge and jury for these 3 horrible criminals. Now, I know how this sounds on the outside, but keep in mind, this is meant to be lighthearted, but I want you to give your judgment on what these punishments should be. Your goal should be to have fun with this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Our first criminal scum is a Wyoming man who applied for a job at a store in Wyoming, and he allegedly stole from the shop twice on the same day. The unidentified 36-year-old man visited a Sportsman warehouse on Friday and bought some items with a reward card, but he did not pay for a pair of sunglasses and ammunition while he was there. Police were notified of theft at the store. 3 hours later, they were called again after the suspect again visited the location, this time to ask for a job application. The man allegedly left the store after that encounter with 2 more pair of sunglasses. The suspect, whose job application status was not immediately clear, was cited for the alleged thefts. Police said they were able to recover the items. What do you think the punishment should be for this unidentified 36-year-old man?
So clearly, it's essentially theft. At its base level, and if there is, ammunition stuff gone missing, that could be, most certainly a bigger threat. But as it stands right now, nothing more has been done by the sounds of it, so it's still just theft. So if I were to take it seriously, I would definitely, it'd be a fine and it would be jail time. Based on the amount of money that was stolen, the items would cost so much. So based on how much it costs would affect the jail time or would affect the sentence. If I had to find a way to make it funny, he has to go 2 weeks, and he can the only thing he's in a room for 2 weeks, right, like a jail cell.
Okay.
And he has to nonstop be read the worst of the worst, be it poor grammar or whatnot, Sonic fanfiction. And all of it, no matter how bad it is either read by Pauly Shore, the Golden Bolt himself, or
I think he'd be down for this.
or it's got to be read by oh god, who played Iago in Aladdin? He's got the really crazy voice. I can do his voice. Iago voice animated. Who was the animator or the editor? Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried's got to read. It's got to have Gilbert Gottfried read. I think that would be the comedic punishment. But at the same time, again, if seriously, I would say it just depends on how much was stolen. He should get jailed.
I feel like you went the mental torture route. I was going to go the more physical torture route.
Oh.
He's 36-year-old, so I feel like 36 lashings would be appropriate.
36 getting medieval over here.
Of course. Don't you know medieval has the perfect punishment? Alright.
God, I get flashbacks to the movies where they still do lashings in a medieval time, like Braveheart or something, and I'm just no, I can barely
36 of them.
I can barely handle a paper cut. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that would be an even better punishment. 36 paper cuts.
Oh no, stop. Okay, next one.
Our second criminal scum is a suspect that butt dialed 911 while breaking into a Best Buy. Police were called around 3 a.m. by a cell phone, but no one was responding on the other end. When officials pinged the cell phone's location, officers determined the call was coming from a Best Buy. Shortly thereafter, the department received a burglary alarm from that same store. After arriving at the scene, police said the 3 burglars left the scene and led police on a 40-minute chase. The chase ended in a northeast Houston when the men bailed out of the getaway truck and ran along the bayou on Los Angeles Street near the North Loop. Officers used a helicopter and canine officers to locate 2 of the 3 men. So, what do you think about these butt-dialing Best Buy burglars?
Well, they're burglars. They're there to burgle. So, again, it's breaking and entering and burglary to the jail time. Comedically, okay. Comedically, alright, their punishment is that for the next month, so for the next month, they have to, they can only eat a combination of laxatives, applesauce, and Taco Bell.
Oh god. Oh god.
And that's their punishment for 1 month. And on top of that, they can only use the toilet once a day.
Oh my. That sounds like it's going to be the most messy toilet of all time. I'm once again going to go for the medieval route. And I'm going to pair all 3 of them in an arena. And I'm going to give them pillows. And they're going to have a pillow fight to the death.
Oh my god, they're going to be so much smothering.
Whoever lives gets to go to jail.
But they also get like a day on the outside beforehand for winning, for killing the other two men. Holy crap.
Maybe.
They get like, I just imagine them running around in like gladiator combat, like rusted, breastplates and stuff, and then all of a sudden like they just pull out a pillow out of like their back or something.
Have a pillow in the shape of a sword.
That'd be pretty solid.
All right. So, are you ready for our final criminal?
I am. What you got for me? The final criminal is a man from Ohio who has a tendency to want to eat a cow named Bess. What should happen to him?
Put to death. Put to death.
Wow, it's like, well, I think, he's just eating a cow. Sorry, continue. Death. Continue, please.
All right. So, Florida Man, the famous Florida Man, super busy. Florida Man is the most popular person in Florida. A 23-year-old Florida man tried to pay for his McDonald's order with a bag of weed. He attempted to make the trade early on the morning of December 16th, offering the weed through the drive-thru window. When the cashier declined the offer, the Florida Man drove off, as Florida men do. Apparently, the police were called over the incident, and they arrived at McDonald's to question the worker. While the police were still on site, the Florida Man, being the Florida Man, attempted to go through the drive-thru again, and he was arrested. He is charged with marijuana possession and driving under the influence.
So, okay. Clearly, that's dumb, right? Clearly, it's
He
stupid.
was offered a fair trade.
Now, I would like to point out there's been a time and a half, not with weed though, where I've been out hanging out with a few guys. We've had a few drinks, and my tipsy ass self decided that, you know what, I'm gonna see if I got like 3 donuts in this box. I want a piece of cake, and I've gone to a counter and been like, hey man, I have that piece of cake, and I'll give you like 3 donuts. So I understand, like, he's trying to barter. Okay.
Bartering should be okay.
But yeah, I would like to see bartering kind of make a comeback. But at the same time, stop. No, you idiot. His sentence is 6 months at a nursing home, and he has to take care of, like, the really crazy old ladies, like the real crazy ones that like to hit and punch everybody. And I think that should be the punishment. The realistic punishment, though, is seriously, he's going to go to jail. Unless it's a place where it was more legal, which I think weed is legal in Florida to an extent. So he probably just got a fine and maybe a slap on the wrist if he hasn't had any previous offenses.
Now, if you ask me, Florida Man, legendary. Absolute legend. We're going to talk about Florida Man forever. He's super famous. He's always doing something. Florida Man is always on fire.
He's a rebel.
I feel like when it comes to Florida Man, you have to treat him a little bit different than everyone else. He shouldn't have to deal with the same laws. So, I think his punishment should be, he now has to work at McDonald's, offered weed the people that just want their McDonald's.
I mean, sure, you know what? Why not? No, he has to smoke a whole bunch of his own pot, and then he has to sit there and watch people eat in front of him for 8 hours a day.
It's just like, hey, I'd like 2 number 2s. No. You could have this marijuana instead, and you're just smoking in front of me, and then I'll think about giving you your food.
It's like, no.
Yes.
No.
And that includes the children in the passenger seat. Here you go.
Oh, God.
Here you go, little Timmy.
Oh. Holy shit, dude.
Well, how have you felt after this glorious podcast? How has this made you feel?
I feel pretty good. I like the topics that were talked about. I liked spewing out all my BS about, the whole rebranding of Jeff Barbie and the Sonic movie and my thoughts on various movies. I liked it. And how I'm truly feeling, I'm feeling like I could go to a steakhouse.
I can't believe this. Tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me on YouTube. My name is still currently Sir Jeffers, but here I think by tomorrow. So as of Saturday. The name will be Jeff Barbie. You can find me on YouTube. And if you're really looking to see more of the face that goes with this voice, you can also find me on the Smash Bits YouTube channel. So just Google that and you'll find me there. Because I do both now. I work 2 channels. And you can also find me on Twitter at Jeff Barbie. And you can find me on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/ you guessed it, Jeff Barbie, all one word. Pretty straightforward. And I'm sure with Wes's help, he'll put a link out somewhere. Who knows?
Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be down below. If not, as he said, you want to just look up Jeff Barbie. As we talked about, this is why he's going to Jeff Barbie, the SEO factor. So when you search Jeff Barbie on YouTube, or on Google even, you're going to get way less results, and you're going to find exactly who he is. But there will be links in the YouTube description down below if you're watching on YouTube. If not, if you're listening anywhere else, you just want to type Jeff Barbie in. If not, Sir Jeffers. If he hasn't updated it miraculously by Monday, things happened. Who knows? But it should be Jeff Barbie. And if you guys enjoyed the BS podcast, as we spouted off a lot of BS this episode,
A lot.
make sure to share the podcast out. It grows when you share it. And if you want to help the podcast continue to fund itself, go to patreon.com/Wesocracy. There's 3 tiers. I updated it this week, actually. I made a video about it on YouTube, and then, ironically, I made adjustments to it because I had new ideas. Funny how that works. But
Isn't
it's
it?
new and improved. And you want to join the Discord, that's where you'll crazy ride on the Discord. Sometimes it's quiet, but then I bring in someone like Jeff, and then it's gonna get crazy.
It's gonna get cray-cray.
Sorry, that was definitely weird. I do voice acting as a side job. But yeah, so as Wes said, guys, share the podcast, tell your friends about it. It's really good. You can actually find it, because Wes didn't want to say it, you can actually find it on Spotify. I've been listening to it whenever I've been at work during the day, and that's true. Wes, I hope you enjoy that. I've been listening to the podcast on Spotify. So there you go.
I really enjoy that the podcast is not just on YouTube. I feel like, as we said earlier on the podcast, very beginning, YouTube just isn't the place for an audio podcast, in my opinion. If it becomes a video podcast, then I could see it being better for YouTube, and I'd still probably lean more towards Twitch. But for now, I feel like Spotify, iTunes, all Stitcher, all TuneIn, all those places where podcasts can be found, except for iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio never accepted my application. They suck. They never even emailed me back about it, by the way. So if you listen to podcasts on iHeartRadio, tag them on Twitter and tell them to accept the BS podcast.
Time you don't do it, I take a bite out of Wes. And then Bess. In that order. I will eat them both if you don't share.
Peace out, guys.
See ya.